Hudson County View, live and uncut. I'm your host, the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. The women's pet and the men's regret. What you see is what you get. John Arhitis. And today we have quite a few news items for you, as always. First, I want to let you know that we're going to be joined with Jersey City Chief Municipal Prosecutor Jake Hudnut, who's sitting right next to me. So we're going to have a comprehensive interview with him before anything else. And after he makes his exit from the studio, we're going to be talking about some important news items throughout the county. First of all, you'll be interested to know that the Hoboken City Council voted on a new city business administrator, though I guess you could say he's not really new, and we're going to explain what that means later on. We're also going to talk about some federal cases actually out of Newark, and in one instance there's a woman who pleaded guilty, a Hoboken woman who pleaded guilty to vote by mail fraud nearly 2 years ago, and she was sentenced, and it was not the result that many people were expecting, so we're going to inform you on that. And we're also going to discuss what happened with a U.S. postal worker from Kearney who discarded nearly 2,000 pieces of mail, including 99 vote-by-mail ballots that were intended for West Orange residents. So obviously an interesting and unexpected development there. And a major development out of the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office. She ruled that the Jersey City police officers involved in a Bostwick Avenue brawl on May 5th will not face any criminal charges. So we're going to give you the breakdown there. But first we're going to hear a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design, studio, and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net. Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants, all major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Good Friend Self-Storage in North Bergen, New Jersey is a fully climate-controlled facility equipped with state-of-the-art security, packing supplies, a Refer Friend program, and multiple loading docks convenient for commercial use. Located just off of Route 3 at 4301 Tunley Avenue, Route 1 and 9. Call 201-867-2444 or visit us on the web today. Good Friend Self-Storage. Let us be your good friend.
Hudson County View, live and uncut. I'm your host, John Arhitis, and as promised, I am joined right next to me with Jersey City Chief Municipal Prosecutor Jake Hudnut. Jake, thanks for coming in.
Hi, thanks for having me, John. I'm happy to be here.
All right, awesome. So Jake, first of all, just a clerical point before we talk about the recent developments in Jersey City. Obviously most people know that the Jersey City Police, the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office, they handle, violent crime, whether that be shootings, stabbings, God forbid, kidnappings. The list goes on. And then, there's obviously the parking authority that handles parking issues. So what exactly is the main function of your office, and how does that come into the play of regular citizens' lives?
Sure. Well, we're kind of right in the middle between something like parking and obviously the more serious violent crime that goes to the county. We handle what every other state in the country would call a misdemeanor, and we also do code enforcement. We have 8 city agencies handling code enforcement. We're about to change that to 5, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And that's sort of my subject matter jurisdiction. We are one of the few states in the country that have the idea of a city prosecutor and a county prosecutor with separate subject matter jurisdiction. And I think what I've brought to the table is showing how that can work. It is undisputed that when disorder is down, when neighborhoods are clean, when residents feel safe in their neighborhoods, you see a reduction in violent crime. So while my counterpart, Honorable Esther Suarez, certainly has the sexier subject matter jurisdiction, if you will, of gangs and guns, we're certainly in the mix, because when you have a municipal prosecutor that is looking at the things we've been looking at the past 2 years, that certainly trickles up, and so you see a reduction in that more violent crime.
All right, understood. So Now, a lot of people know you in recent memory. I think it's been about 2 years since the Quality of Life Task Force formed under Mayor Stephen Fulop, right? So certainly there was a lot of attention when this fell under the Department of Public Safety last month. We saw a lot of people that were part of the Defund the Police movement, and they said public safety shouldn't get a penny more, there shouldn't be more inspectors. They felt like this was the equivalent of broken windows policing, even though obviously your inspectors are not going to go and arrest people, because they felt like this would open up the floodgates, I guess you could say, to people going to court and people not being able to pay for tickets, and basically used to fill budget gaps. I guess that's rehashing the whole meeting in a very, very short parcel, but just your reaction to all that.
It's easy to recap those comments in a short parcel because this same soundbite was said over and over again by very few people. And I think the mayor successfully talked about this last week in some other areas. This sort of conversation is being controlled by a very small group of people, and they don't reflect the larger values of the city of Jersey City. And I think, unfortunately, when this went before the council, you saw a few council people, quite opportunistically, sort of latch on to those comments. What we brought forward is a good thing. It's a progressive thing. It's community policing at its best. And it literally makes people's lives better in the neighborhoods where they need to know that the city wants their streets to be clean and they want their neighborhoods to be beautiful. When people talk about broken windows or community policing, quite frankly, I think a lot of the people joining this conversation from the outside don't know what those things are. And they are relying on sound bites. There are police departments across the country that have done broken windows the wrong way. I'm not going to dispute that. But the folks that developed those theories, academics and criminologists, George Kelling, one of the most famous of them, were progressives, and they were committed to police reform. And you know, I said to the council, and I say quite a lot, community policing is not just National Night Out. It's not just police officers jump roping with children. It's a police department or a public safety presence that is driven by resident engagement. And that's what we brought forward, and I'm very proud of it. The mayor understood it, Director Shea understood it, and the noise that you referred to was noise. There was no information or data behind it.
So now I know we've had conversations, and I believe Mayor Fulop just said it last week, as you alluded to, that this is education over enforcement, which is why this isn't really being used to plug budget gaps. So could you explain just what sorts of instances you guys are investigating and when you would issue a ticket versus a warning and anything in between?
Absolutely, and I think it's an important point to make for the folks following this. When the objections to the Quality of Life Division came out and people talked about it as a way to funnel young men of color into the criminal justice system, I had all I could do not to laugh, because one, I was a very aggressive public defender at the county for 8 years with upwards of 13 jury trials of felony cases under my belt. More than half of those acquittals, those that weren't acquittals, came back on appeal for issues I preserved. I was very proud to stand up to law enforcement as a public defender. And then I joined law enforcement, bringing that perspective. What I do on the Quality of Life Task Force is businesses and landlords. We do not go after young men or women of color. We do not police traditional disorder in the sense of disorderly groups, loitering, sidewalk obstruction. We let people in this city know that a landlord isn't going to come into town from out of state or out of city, take advantage of less fortunate people, which we...
Mr. Prosecutor, let me stop you right there. We're just going to take a quick commercial break, but we'll have more, just a couple minutes.
The Jersey City Medical Center. You know it for its award-winning, life-saving ambulance service. It's also your health hub, with health and wellness locations staffed with certified professionals all through Hudson County. The Jersey City Medical Center, here to help you with your healthy, here when you need us the most. The Jersey City Medical Center. Visit us on the net to learn more. Jersey City Medical Center, Robert Wood Johnson, Barnabas Health Facility. Let's be healthy together.
Newport, the luxury waterfront community on the Hudson River, offers a quality of life you deserve in 10 high-rise rental towers with amenities such as the on-site Newport Path subway, light rail and ferry service, Newport Town Square, 3 playgrounds, dog run, upscale restaurants, retail giants like Sears, JCPenney, Macy's, and Target. Morton Williams Supermarket is just outside your front door. A health and fitness club, spa, skating rink, and medical facilities are also on site. NewportNJ.com. Enjoy the New York skyline from Newport Town Square. Manhattan is just one path stop away or quick ride through the Holland Tunnel. Nursery and private elementary schools all on site. 12-screen movie theater at the Newport Center Mall. Want to visit Newport? Stay at the Westin or Marriott Hotel. Go to NewportNJ.com for details. Newport has luxurious towers, great restaurants, shopping, New York skyline views, schools, playgrounds, a marina and yacht club, gym, spa, fine wine, fine living. It's incredible. It's you. NewportNJ.com. Newport, live like you want.
Hudson County View live at Uncut, and I'm still John Arhides, and we're still here with Jersey City Chief Municipal Prosecutor Jake Hudnut. So Jake, you were just telling us that the actual enforcement was more based around landlords. It didn't actually involve loitering and other things of that nature. So please finish your thought on that.
Sure. Public nuisance businesses. There's a principle that I believe very strongly in called equitable enforcement. I recently was accepted as a fellow to the Public Rights Project, and one of the main missions of this organization is ensuring that prosecutors and city attorneys have dockets that are balanced, that include defendants that are businesses or commercial entities. The work of the task force is stopping landlords from exploiting people and stopping businesses that think they're above the law. One Cave and Point is a fantastic example. We drove polluters out of the south end of the city, and in doing that, we let the residents know in the southern end of the city that were affected by that pollution that enforcement was there for them. It was proactive, and we were there to solve a problem. And that's a progressive concept. I'm very proud to sort of carry that forward every day with our work.
Sure. So now I think something that got lost in the shuffle for a lot of people was why even put this under public safety? It seemed like you guys were moving right along. Obviously, it was another marathon council meeting, and I think a lot of people don't even realize it's 30 inspectors under public safety. Yourself obviously still in charge, but Director Shea, of course, now having some oversight. So just tell us, from a logistics standpoint, what changed and why this is a good thing in your book.
It's a great thing. Well, first of all, the noise included interchangeably the objections to this combined used police and public safety interchangeably. There's a lot more to public safety than just policing, right? We don't see any of these same activists objecting to the fact that the police department is under that the fire department is under public safety. Everything is a matter of public safety. My work to have clean streets, safe streets is a matter of public safety. And most of our work is community driven. I have 2 community meetings next week. I think since the task force launched, I've had or attended over 30 community meetings. My work is driven by community input. That's why we moved the Resident Response Center under my office, my new division. And I think what better message to show that public safety is in the business of solving problems than to bring in the problem-solving arm of the city into public safety. And so we're sort of reframing what it means to be in public safety. I think one of the main problems when you look over the last 100 years with policing is it's become very reactionary. The advent of cars put police officers in their cars instead of on their feet. The advent of 911 as a telephone response system. I think nationally we need to swing the pendulum back to proactive policing. Policing of going out, getting to know your neighborhoods, getting to know your beat, and solving people's problems so they have trust in police. That's what we're doing. If Resident Response Center is plugged in with public safety, then we're sort of letting the world, the city know, hey, police, public safety, fire, code enforcement, local prosecutor, we're here to solve problems, not punish people.
All right, Mr. Prosecutor, so let's talk a little about COVID times. So, you were one of the first that I saw, at least locally or even in the state, to come out about price gouging. That's something that I know you guys have tackled. And of course, enforcement on capacity limits, I know, is something that you've been big on, and other emergency state orders. So just tell me what that's been like. Obviously, there was no rule book or no precedent to look back on this. So this must have been an interesting time. And you see people complain on social media about selective enforcement, this bar and this many people and that restaurant and that many people. How does it all, unfold from your perspective?
Sure. Well, first, it was a great honor that the mayor put that under my team and trusted my team with enforcing that. And from day one, we led with education before enforcement. the summons was always the last resort. It was conversation because we knew everyone was living under a new normal. None of us knew how to handle any of this. I think statewide, some municipalities, including Newark, were bragging about how many summonses they issued. We issued less than 5% of summonses of our calls for service since March. And
How many would you estimate total?
Summonses,
Yeah.
less than 100 out of over, I think we're up to 1,500 calls for service of my team checking compliance.
Okay.
And all the instances where summonses were written, it was never the first visit. And obviously the well-known situation is the factory, right?
Sure.
And some accusations were lobbed at us there. Those were 911 and 5477 calls from residents nearby that heard the noise, heard the people outside, heard the overcrowding. And those tickets were actually issued by normal patrol. They weren't even issued by my quality of life officers. So again, everything we do is community driven. We don't decide where to go on a whim. We listen to the community, whether it's calls for service, community meetings, or the resident response center. First step is always education. The factory had had a number of visits, a number of issues, and we had to resort to summonses.
And has that been resolved yet?
It's active in court. I will say we've had less calls for service there, so maybe they got the message, and that's all I'm looking for. I don't look to, we spoke earlier about fee generation in court, never my goal. My goal is problem solving. If they come to court, there's a backlog from COVID in court. When they come before the court, if there has been a demonstrable reduction in calls for service, which we can easily check through the computer automated dispatch system, that's going to weigh strongly in their favor.
Sure.
I'm not here to make money off people. I'm here to solve problems for people.
Very good. Once again, Jersey City Chief Municipal Prosecutor Jake Hudnut, thanks for coming in.
Thank
Ladies
you.
and gentlemen, thanks for watching. We're going to take another break. We're not done yet. We'll see you shortly.
Most women who give birth recover without problems, but any woman can have complications after the birth of a baby. Learn the post-birth warning signs, such as fever, headache, chest pain, shortness of breath, increased bleeding, or thoughts of hurting yourself or someone else. Knowing these can save your life or the life of someone that you love. Trust your instincts. If you feel something is wrong, call and get evaluated by your healthcare provider. If your symptoms get worse or you do not hear back from your physician, call 911 or go to the nearest emergency room.
RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together.
Pan & Pinto Properties, Jersey City. Shaping the workplace with state-of-the-art office spaces that address your company desires. Building residences that define your home environment, adjacent to all modes of transportation with on-site parking available. The right address, the right lease. Call 201-521-9000 or visit online at panandpintoproperties.com. Pan & Pinto Properties, building Jersey City for everyone.
Hudson County View, live at Uncut, John Arhitis. So, like I said, we had some federal court matters that I wanted to talk about. We got quite a few this week, definitely more than usual in just 3 days. But the big one that you probably seen on a lot of bigger outlets, I know it was on the cable TV news last night, but I believe we were the first to have it. A United States Postal Service worker from Kearney was arrested for trashing West Orange mail, and it was actually not just a couple pieces, not a few dozen. It was 1,875 pieces of mail, and U.S. Attorney Craig Carpenito, in a release, talked about that was 627 pieces of first class, 873 pieces of standard class, 2 pieces of certified mail, and a lot of people felt, most importantly, 99 general election ballots destined for residents in West Orange, as well as campaign flyers for candidates West Orange Town Council and the Board of Education. So the man charged is Nicholas Buchin. He's 26 years old, of Kearney, and he was charged by complaint with 1 count of delay, secretion or detention of mail, and 1 count of obstruction of mail. And now these pieces were scheduled to be delivered on September 28th, October 1st, and October 2nd, and they ended up in dumpsters in North Arlington and West Orange, according to federal prosecutors with the U.S. Attorney's Office. So obviously this is going to be interesting. You guys have possibly seen some West Orange officials talking about this over the weekend, and clearly there was a quick reaction from law enforcement here, and now we have charges. We'll see where this goes. But in a related note, and just to quickly mention, some of our United States representatives, our congresspeople, of course, Bill Pascrell, Albio Series, and Mickey Sherrill, they have all called on the USPS Inspector General to do a federal investigation into North Jersey mail that's been discarded including places like I just said, West Orange. We know about the Patterson vote by mail fraud allegations back from May, and there's been a couple other instances as well. So that's a letter that's also on our site that you'll probably be interested in reading. So and also vaguely related, not specifically about what I was just speaking of, but it does have to do with vote by mail fraud. A Hoboken woman, Lizetta Camus, she was somebody that might sound familiar to some of our consistent and loyal readers because she was someone whose name came up quite a bit at the federal trial of Frank Rea, of course, a former Hoboken Politico and developer that was convicted of vote by mail fraud last June. So that's Liz Camus, 57 of Hoboken, and she ended up being sentenced to just 6 months probation during a 30-minute hearing in front of U.S. District Judge William J. Martucci, who seems to be handling all of those cases out of Hoboken, those vote-by-mail cases. Now, remember, Frank Rea and Liz Camus were charged in connection to the 2013 municipal elections. That was a mayoral year where Frank Rea ran as an at-large council person. And there still potentially can be many other charges pending in the 2015 city council races, the 2017 mayoral contest. Of course, that's all speculative. We don't know exactly what they're doing, but certainly it doesn't look like this case is closed by any stretch of the imagination. You guys might recall, and I mean, it was just a quick story at the end of August, though, that this actually isn't the first recent sentencing. There was a man by the name of William Rojas, also out of Hoboken, that pleaded guilty to a similar vote-by-mail fraud scheme in connection to the 2015 municipal council races. Yet another reason why I say this appears to be ongoing, and this looks like this is going to be something that is going to be going for probably a pretty long time if I had to put my finger on it. So with that, we're going to take one more commercial break, and we'll see you in a few.
You know those times when you need to see the doctor, but you just can't get to the doctor? So where do you go? Go to the App Store, download the Telemed app from RWJ Barnabas Health, and you see the doctor right away. From any mobile device, whenever you want, wherever you are.
Quality care, no appointment necessary. The doctor is online when you download the Telemed app.
Don't you feel better already?
RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together.
Stevens Jersey City Ford, located right off of NJ 440 North. Across the Hudson Mall is your one-stop for all your automotive needs. Check out Ford's latest models like the 2020 Ford Fusion with its stylish looks and hybrid options, or the unparalleled high-performance 2020 Ford Mustang. The 2020 Ford F-150 Raptor is ready for those rugged off-road terrains with trail control. Need a mid-sized truck for your towing and hauling? The 2020 Ford Ranger will deliver. The 2020 Ford Escape is a luxury SUV that was made for comfort and adventure on the go. Returning is Ford's legendary Bronco, which takes you back to the true meaning of off-roading. They are now available for pre-order in our showroom or on our website. Let us help you find your next vehicle. Stevens Jersey City Ford, 201-432-7272.
Hudson County View, live and uncut, John R. Hydus. So as I mentioned at the top of the program, we had a pretty significant decision coming out of the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office just yesterday. In a lengthy decision, we heard Hudson County Prosecutor Esther Suarez note that there will be no charges against the Jersey City police officers involved in a May 5th brawl on Bostwick Avenue. So this came to notoriety after a number of cell phone videos made their way on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, as is often the case these days. And we saw a number of black activists come out and call for one officer in particular, that's Officer Brian Rowan, to be, at one point they said different things, at one called for suspension, firing, and indictment. And of course now we know that at least the indictment, and I would assume the firing, are pretty improbable. There is still the possibility of some discipline from the JCPD, as the Internal Affairs Unit, though, will be taking a final look at this before this is put in the past. So with that in mind, let me talk to you a little bit about what Prosecutor Suarez said on this. So she said in her write-up that after repeated attempts to de-escalate the incident with verbal commands to disperse failed, body-worn camera footage and cell phone/social media video show a chaotic scene unfold. Ultimately, several individuals, while resisting arrest and or interfering in the officer's attempt to effect a lawful arrest, took criminal action toward the officers, justifying the use of some degree of mechanical force. While attempting to stop a physical altercation between two civilians fighting with each other, a responding officer had a juvenile actor reach toward his duty belt in a possible attempt to disarm the officer. Now, if that narrative sounds familiar to you, it's because that's not the first time that we've heard it. Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop, Police Chief Michael Kelly, and Public Safety Director James Shea said this the very next day, May 6th, in front of the Public Safety Headquarters, and they basically praised the officer's restraint due to the fact that they felt somebody was reaching for his service weapon. And clearly that's the same thing that you heard from the Hudson County Prosecutor after this independent review was completed. Now, nevertheless, as I just mentioned a moment ago, there were still people calling for some sort of discipline, some sort of recourse. And while the Internal Affairs Unit does have that option, it appears unlikely. At this time, granted, it's still pending further review. So furthermore, from Suarez, she said the independent prosecutor's review and the videos of the incident confirm what the administrator should reported initially. This is from City Spokeswoman Kimberly Wallace-Calcione. She said this was an unfortunate and chaotic event that resulted in the officers on scene being forced to deploy legal and necessary force because they were attacked. So getting to the end here, I mean, it's quite a lengthy decision, but the bottom line is all videos were sent to the FBI as well as the New Jersey Attorney General's office, and the AG specifically had the Office of Public Integrity and Accountability look at it, and the whole review is complete. And the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office has completed its criminal review of the force employed by Jersey City police officers during this incident. Based upon the totality of circumstances, there is an absence of proof beyond a reasonable doubt that these officers committed criminal acts. Accordingly, these officers' use of mechanical force will not be presented to a Hudson County grand jury. So a pretty definitive decision there, as you can see, and it's going to be interesting to see what the conclusion is, but a lot of people are chattering behind the scenes that this is probably the final chapter. But we will patiently wait and see, and if there are any further updates, we will certainly let you know in a timely fashion. Before we call it a day, I did just briefly want to touch on the fact that Hoboken has a new business administrator, but it's actually the same as the old one because the council voted to make acting business administrator Jason Freeman, who had been splitting the duties with Assistant Business Administrator Caleb Stratton for about 8 months, by a tally of 5-3 to 1. This was another contentious meeting, a marathon meeting over 3 hours for what looked like a relatively light agenda, but, the Mile Square City being what it is, that did go by so smoothly. We saw the First Ward Councilman Mike DeFusco, we saw Second Ward Councilwoman Tiffany Fisher, and the Council President Jen Giattino being very vocally against this. They all said that at a bare minimum, this needs to go to a full executive search, and that they felt that this was being rushed and was essentially being shoved down the throat of not only the council, but the whole community at large, the general public. Now, interestingly, the 5 votes came because Third Ward Councilman Michael Russo and Councilwoman at Large Vanessa Falco decided to vote for this, and they had a pretty similar line of thinking. They said, regardless of what we decide to vote today, and of course I'm paraphrasing, then the mayor is going to leave Jason in this role. If we vote no, he'll still be the acting business administrator, and if we vote yes, obviously he'll become the business administrator, but the mayor's not going to sign off on an executive search, so we're really stuck in a catch-22. So rather than belabor the point, why not just get this over with? And as you can imagine, that did go over well with everybody, but they had the 5 votes that were necessary, and it's in the record books. I'm sure the next council meeting will not be one to forget. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call it a week. Thank you so much for joining us. Take it easy and stay safe.